Welcome to episode 3 of Run With. Today I am off to London, not to meet the Queen, but to meet the amazing athlete Paul Martelletti. He is a pretty amazing endurance athlete and he has run plenty of marathons and ultra marathons, representing GB in the 100k and 50k World Championships last year. He also had the world record for running the quickest marathon in a superhero costume. He also smashed London Marathon a few years back dressed as Spider-Man and broke the world record at the time. He is running this year's London Marathon, so I'm going to meet up with him and discuss all of his achievements and his running, his training and what his plans are on race day this year. So today I'm talking to Paul. Thank you very much for taking the time out to meet me this week, although you are on taper, so
yes.
A bit more time, not running as much.
Yeah, I do find at the moment I've had a bit going on, so I'm feeling like I've got too much to do in the short time. I haven't really sorted myself out for the race yet.
Oh no, so what are we now? We're Tuesday. Are we Tuesday? Wednesday. So we're Wednesday, you're not sorted?
Nope.
No, not at all. And you go into your bubble on Friday?
Yes.
Yeah, so you've left yourself a bit to do. But before we talk about London, I would really love just to talk a bit more about you and your background with running, because you've done some really cool stuff. So how did you start running? Why did you start running?
I mean, my running goes back to early days, like back at school. I guess I was always naturally fit. Mm-hmm. I'd win, like the school cross country, and then as I got older, I got into track. So I'd do like 400 meters was kind of my event, mm-hmm. and I was good to I guess it would be equivalent of maybe county level,
right? Okay.
Or so. But then as soon as I got to because in New Zealand there's North Island, South Island championships, mm-hmm. as well as a national championship. And as soon as I got to that North Island level, I just wasn't as good anymore. I'd be lucky to make a final kind of thing. So, so I think when I was young, my 400 PB was roughly 52 something.
Right.
And then my 800 best was like 203. So in terms of conversion, it was rather poor, because I think basically I just didn't train. All my fitness was just natural. Like the sprint of the 400 meter sprint kind of training was a lot of rugby training, just running backwards and forwards a lot. Fast sprinting, stop start. So I was quite well conditioned for 400, but as running any further was not. It was good, but not very good at all. No, unfortunately. And funnily enough, what was it? To 95, 96, I was at school doing that, and probably when in the UK doing some track races, I managed to break 2 minutes for 800 off marathon training. It was probably 15 years later, I guess.
Yeah.
So I was pretty happy with that.
Yeah.
Broke 2 minutes, I can retire.
Yeah, that's it, you're done now.
Yeah.
Okay, great. So how did that transition from running at school and doing the short stuff to marathons?
Yeah, so I think at school there's a bit more pressure, whether it's school, because they know you're reasonably good, they want you to do these things, and I don't mind doing it either, because I was reasonably good. And then it was just like I left school, went to uni, and I think I lost any motivation to sort of keep at that kind of thing. I just didn't have it, so was just studying, probably drinking a bit too much, just
typical
playing
uni.
Playing rugby, like social rugby, and social rugby is turn up on Saturday and that's your training, and it's all about drinking afterwards.
Yeah, it's all about the after game.
Yeah, so that was sort of a few years, uni and even after uni, and I think I'm not claiming to be anywhere in Steve Way's territory of fat to fit, but I mean I was like 85 kilos-ish at my rugby prime, and like now I'm like 65 kind of thing. So I was quite stocky. Like I was quite a solid build, and combined with speed, it meant I was quite, I guess, quite good, speed and being strong or bigger. But yeah, so it was literally 2003-ish, I think. So we're talking after school, 5 or 6 years after school. I just started to run a little bit while at work. I just didn't feel very fit. Just didn't feel, very good, I guess, if you want to call it that. So decided I wanted to try and just lose a little bit of weight. Just started running at lunchtime around Wellington, which is just beautiful for running anyway. It's like a nice harbour and it's just amazing, except it's really windy. So I'm glad I didn't run too much, because every time I've been back since, it blows a gale, and I'm like, honestly, if I wanted to run seriously here, I would have given up.
You don't class it as resistance training then?
No, I class it as torture.
Torture.
Well, not torture. It's just horrible. It's just not nice. But I ended up doing a half marathon, my first half marathon, and I ran 88 minutes or so. And I had no idea at the time that was half decent, I guess. And I remember telling my wife at the time as well that I'm never going to run a marathon, because 88 minutes means there's no way I'm going to run a marathon under 3 hours, and there's no way I'm going to run for more than 3 hours. So,
oh really? So you didn't want to.
I had a cut off of 3 hours. Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I just couldn't see myself running that long. I thought it was just far too long. So the year after, I did the same half marathon, did like 84 minutes, so a bit of an improvement. And then I think the year later, I moved over to the UK. That was like 2006. And really from there, I started running home from work.
Okay.
Just
run commute?
Yep. So I was at Waterloo, living on the Isle of Dogs, which is about a 5.5 mile, 8K kind of run. And having no idea what to do, I would just run home as fast as I could, trying to beat my time. So essentially, I was just doing a tempo run every time I ran, which ultimately was pretty good training, but it's not the way.
Not great for your body.
It was actually okay, because I was only running because of that, I felt I could only run every 2 or 3 days.
Okay.
So it wasn't every day.
Have a little break in.
Yeah. So inadvertently, I was somehow being sensible.
Right. Okay.
Don't know. Yeah. And then it really all kicked off. So I was working there, and he's another guy from New Zealand actually. He had this bright idea that we should do the London Marathon. Yeah. And this is in August or something, I think, of the year. So I had a little look to see, how do you get into the London Marathon? And there's all the charity options. But then I saw also there was the Good for Age, and at the time it was a sub 3 hour marathon. So that
suited you?
Yeah. Don't want to run more than no. Yeah. So I literally, from that date, 4 weeks later, I ran the Nottingham Robin Hood Marathon. Right. And in that 4 weeks, I did my longest run up until the 4 week out was 13 miles. And then in that 4 weeks, I did a 22 and a 24, basically at 2 hour 50 pace, just so I knew I could do it. And I didn't obviously again realise what I was doing. And then as often happens with me, sometimes with marathons, we went on a bit of a holiday to New York. Right. Came back and I was really sick. So it's been quite common in my running that I do end up getting sick sometimes, quite a bad cold just before. And anyway, I came back. I was able to run. I ran like a 85 first half. Yeah. And then suffered through a little bit. Ended up running a 2:58, so I got just under. Yeah. And then from there, really, it just all went.
Kept getting better and more serious?
Yeah, I started training properly.
Okay. So yeah, because that doesn't sound like you trained properly at all for your first marathon. So to go and do that time just kind of on a whim, I guess, being poorly, kind of shows that you've got some natural talent there as well, doesn't it?
Yeah, I mean, again, I didn't realise at the time that for a lot of club runners, like 3 hours is kind of the holy grail. It's like some people will work years and years trying to break the 3 hour mark. And I just had no idea really which was probably good in a way. I was just so naive that I just did whatever, and yeah, it worked out, luckily.
Luckily. And so that got you good for age into London?
Yeah, so that was September, 2007, so I got my good for age. That sort of, if you want to call it a build-up for that Nottingham marathon was like, I think I averaged about 30 miles a week.
Is that all?
Yeah,
30 miles?
because I was running like every 2 or 3 days, the tempo runs, and then a few long runs. So yeah, I got up to about 30 miles, and then after that, I ended up training with one of my good friends, Dave Volcock, he used to live really close to me, but I just did whatever he was doing because he seemed to know what he was doing.
Right, okay,
He'd been running a while, so I was like, yep, I'll just do whatever you're doing.
Yeah.
I think I got up to about 60 odd miles for the next few months and did some like actual proper training, like some track sessions and stuff, and so that was. I remember it being quite scary at the time. Like even though I'd run 400, 800 on the track and that, like I'd done plenty of track races, but just training with other people, kind of, I didn't know the etiquette almost. It was just like you turn up to the track and it's all kind of quite serious.
What you're doing
and like if you're doing like 800 rep or a K rep, or I felt bad because I was like just following. I was like, do I have to lead? Do I have to take a turn? I had no idea what I was doing, but yeah. But I mean, it worked out really well, and literally, 6 months more of training, and then I ended up running 2:28. So within that sort of 7 month gap,
improvement.
Went from like the 2:58 to the 2:28, which is.
And that was your first London.
Yeah, first London.
The first London.
Yeah.
Amazing. It obviously started a thing, and you obviously enjoy the long distances because you run some big distances and you like the mileage. I've been looking at your Strava, so I'll talk about that because I'm amazed by your year this year. But in 2014, you represented GB at the 100k World Championships.
Yep.
How was that?
In a word, horrible.
Horrible? Okay.
I say horrible. It was awesome. However, my performance and my body it wasn't a good race for me. And just it was in Doha, which it's not.
So is it really humid out there? And
it's hot and humid. So basically, throughout the day, the humidity would. When the sun comes out, it burns off the humidity, so it's really hot, humidity's down, and then as the temperature drops, the humidity goes back up. So we started at 6 o'clock at night to avoid the heat, but obviously then the humidity's up on the up. So I mean, Doha was never an ideal place, I don't think, for long distance running, let alone probably short distance.
And I guess as well with your body clock and stuff, running in the evening and like the different time zones and stuff, it must have kind of messed you about a little bit. Yeah,
it does. And I mean, this is the thing, like when you have a bad race, I find you actually learn so much more than had it all gone to plan, because you really sit back and sort of start analysing what was wrong, And one of the things I remember, I was I was quite disorganised. So you've got to organise your drinks, and we're talking, because it's 100k, you've got a drink station every 5k, so you've got potentially like 20 drink bottles, I guess, that you want to sort out. And depending on what you want to put in them, like sometimes you might want something a bit more electrolyte-y, other times you need the carbs, you need just a range of things. It can be simple, like you can just go straight to the same thing all the way, but these things you think about, and you decide what you want. And salt was a big thing that I was thinking about, just with the weather. But yeah, it took me a really long time to sort those drinks out, and it was kind of last minute, so it was a real panic at the end, and I think I was just quite stressed by the start line, which didn't help. So, you know, there's little things like that you learn, and it's good for next time to just be a bit more organised. And saying that, I'm not 100% organised yet for the weekend, but I've still got a couple of days.
Yeah, I sense a little theme coming along here. Have you got your drinks sorted for the weekend?
No, but it's much simpler with marathons these days. It's just a case of, well, for me now, I just started using the Morton. Yeah. And I find it really easy for me to.
I hear a lot of people say good stuff about the.
Yeah. You can. I just get on with it. Like gels, I used to struggle with. Like I might take 2 or 3 gels max in a marathon. Which is only like 60 grams of carbs. I can take easily 60 grams an hour with the Morton. Yeah. So I'm like at least doubling my carb intake.
Do you use that on your long runs? Because you do a lot of big long runs. I don't know. I'll talk about your London Marathon training in a minute, but usually you like running long miles. I'm talking like 30-mile runs and stuff like that. Do you fuel with that on those runs too?
So when I do the longer stuff, sometimes I'm a bit, it's on a whim. Yeah. Like I might literally be running and go, I feel all right here. Carry on. I might just keep going, and I know I'm going to be running, if I've gone 15 out, I know I've got to come 15 home. Yeah. So adding another 2 is actually adding another 4, you know, so I was able to, you know, I can gauge often where I'm at. And sometimes, like when I do that, I'm not as prepared, so I literally might only have water or 1 gel or something. But if I have thought about it and I'm properly trying to do something, I'll definitely have, like, I take the sachets. I'll just take a bottle. Yeah. I know where some taps are, so I can pour the powder into a bottle. Yeah. Have the water, gels, shot blocks, all sorts of different range of products. It's like a little picnic almost. A little picnic.
That's what I like about ultras. I describe it as a picnic on the move. But I think it's probably a little bit different. I eat sandwiches. You're too quick for the sandwiches. So, but 100k distance, is that a distance you like? Do you like the longer stuff, or do you still prefer the marathon?
Marathon's like a really hard one. Like it's so hard to get right, and you always come away, even though you can run really well, you know, if you're with even like a minute or so off your target, you're always like you just want that little bit more, like, and that's what keeps bringing me back to it really. It's like I know, like I set my PB of 2:16 back in 2011, and now we're like, this is 9 years later, and that whole 9 years I've been like, I know I can run 2:15, and there's been plenty of times I've been in the shape to do it or very close, and you know, maybe I've done something wrong, or there was one time I actually got knocked off my bike 10 days out and I broke my wrist and all sorts of, you know, so sometimes I just have bad luck, but I mean, so that carrot of I know I can, you know, get that. Well, it used to be like I know I can run under 2:15. I think I still can, but it's sort of going, I know I can run a PB now. Like I still know I can run a PB. I've been so close in the last like 3 or 4 years consistently.
That's what keeps you hooked.
Yeah.
And I guess it's the same. It's whatever ability. I think that's the same for all runners who do marathon distances. You're just there, and because it's such a big build up for that one day, and there's so many things that can go wrong. If something slightly goes wrong and like you're in good shape but you get knocked over by a bike, then you got to go through the whole process again and then go do a marathon again. But it's something about it keeps you going back, I guess. Yeah. I think
it's almost like you're trying to better yourself, or you know that you know it's there, you know you can get it, it's attainable. And it's just frustrating, I guess, but it does keep you going back. Okay,
so I'll ask you about the shape that you think you're in for London in a bit. The next thing I want to talk about is your Spider-Man record. Yeah. So in, 2015?
Yep.
You set the record for running the fastest marathon dressed as a superhero?
Yep.
Is that a world record?
It was.
Oh, it was, okay.
Yeah.
But still, so I understand that you wanted 2:30. You wanted sub 2:30 for your record, is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and you got that.
Yeah, I was like 2:29.57.
That counts.
Yeah.
So it counts. How did that come about? Why did you run a marathon as Spider-Man?
So I mean, it's one of those things I'd always like. You know, I live on the London Marathon course. I live at like basically mile 16. So that's been the whole time. Like I've lived in the UK every year. People were like, well, often I'm running it, of course, but there was a lot of times I wasn't running it, like half a dozen times maybe I wasn't running it. So you see all these people, all these costumes, and it just like I just knew that, you know, I was like, I so want to do that one day, like run in a costume and set a record. And it's one of those things like when you're trying to run competitively and like trying to run a PB, you don't always get the opportunity to have fun and just be a bit silly. You've got to sacrifice something almost to be able to do that sometimes.
Yeah, I guess for you guys, there's no like high-fiving people and that more fun aspect. I guess.
Well, to be fair, sometimes I was doing that, and I think that cost me time.
Oh, great! Now we know what you haven't got back to your PB.
So yeah, I've learned to behave myself and just calm down a bit, like because it does waste energy ultimately. So it's a good little trick just to settle down.
Okay.
Yeah. But Spider-Man, so then the week before I'd won the Manchester Marathon. So it was the perfect opportunity because I had an entry for London anyway. It was kind of the perfect opportunity to sort of just have some fun because I'd done my main target race.
Yeah, and I guess you couldn't do that the following week again anyway. It would have been
exactly. So it's like there's no way I'm going to run like very well, let's say like super good. So I thought, yeah, I'll do it then. Use that opportunity, and then so again, this comes like I was saying, I get sick a lot. Like after that Manchester, I got really sick again. So like I shouldn't have probably run really. Like I was in bad shape, I guess, but I still ran, and it was such an awesome day though. Like it was just like so amazing. Like I could hardly like run anywhere without someone saying Spidey or Spider-Man.
That's
or something.
great, and that's kind of like the spirit of London as well, isn't it? Because it's an amazing race full of fancy dress. But why not say an inflatable rhino or a toilet? I've seen toilets.
I guess it was all about speed.
Yeah, and that speed.
And superheroes. If you're gonna run a fancy dress like record, I think the Guinness World Records of fancy dress costumes, the superhero ones are always the fastest. Like I don't know what the next fastest category is, but you know the superhero one came down from like 240 odd. Like I know like Mike Wardian, the ultra runner, he did Spider-Man, he had the record at one point. Someone else has done the Flash, you know, then like Mike's also done things like Elvis, but the record's just been coming down with the superhero category. It just lends itself very well to fast running, doesn't it? And the suit's quite nice and lycra tight.
It's probably, I did Wonder Woman for a half marathon, but I got such bad chafe that I'm never going there again. I thought it was really cool, and I certainly wasn't as fast as Ali Dixon. She did Wonder Woman as well, didn't she?
Great North, was it?
Yeah, Great North, yeah. Amazing. Right.
And she did that after the 50k world champs, where she'd set a world record. So, you know, like it's the same thing that, you know, you take those opportunities to have some fun.
Yeah,
so,
which you don't get that often, being a serious athlete.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's talk about your training, because you do run huge miles. You're a big mileage guy, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I had a look at your Strava, a little bit of a Strava stalker. So this is before London training, I guess. Although, were you trained? No, you wouldn't have been, it was May. So in May, you ran 620 something miles, I think it is?
Probably.
That's huge. Is that a normal kind of month?
It's not. Like in a typical month, I might be anywhere from like the 4 at the lowest to like 450, pushing 500. But if I'm doing like proper training, I guess I might be just over 500, 550.
Right.
But no, in May, this is like, it was sort of April, May, because of obviously lockdown and things.
Getting you through lockdown,
yeah, and what happened? It started up because we had these rules of like going out once a day for exercise. I kind of exploited the once a day and just made it a really long one run. So I think my daily run was almost like 2 hours.
Yeah, because you did, I mean, it seems a bit, for me, maybe ultra training, it might make sense back-to-back long runs, but you were doing like 20-mile runs, and then I think the one time you did a 20-mile run and a 40-something run?
Yeah, the 1 week I did, like going back to singles, just one run a day, I did that for about 4 or 5 weeks of singles because of the rules. And I was I was like 100, 110, 120 miles just off one run a day, so 7 runs. And I think the most amount was 150 one of the weeks. So that was probably with the 40 or 45, 44 mile at the end or something.
Yeah. Because obviously it's a lot, and you like the mileage, but do you find, because if any normal person did that kind of mileage, they would break a lot. Are injuries something that you suffer with, or you're pretty resilient?
I'm pretty robust. The thing I found when I started doing those, like the longer runs, just single daily runs of like up to 2 hours, 17, 20 miles, I was getting niggles here and there, and normally if I just run like 90 minutes or something, I won't get that kind of thing. But I think just the amount of running I was doing, it was kind of exploiting little weaknesses, or just my body was just getting used to it. And it took a few weeks, and there was like something every few days or every week or something. I had some little niggle thing, and it was never enough to that I had to stop running, or never enough that in that scenario when we were in proper lockdown, we couldn't go to a physio or anything like that. I never felt like I needed to. It was just that's a bit sore, and then another day, that might be a bit sore, but I kind of I generally just run through a lot, and I've really only had one major injury, like a stress fracture, but that was my own doing because I did a couple of 200-mile weeks.
Okay.
But the main reason I put down for that was I just wasn't able to eat enough to sustain that kind of mileage. I
guess
I just didn't have the time.
You need to make sure you're fueling.
So it was just a silly mistake, and I've learned from it. So I'm not worried. If I wanted to do it again, I'd quite happily run 200-mile a week again. I just know that I have to eat like constantly.
More food. It's never a bad thing.
Yeah.
What's your nutrition like? Are you pretty good with it, or just?
I just eat anything I want. I don't really, I don't sort of say no to things. I don't have anything like a bad list or anything. I eat a lot of chocolate, a lot of crisps.
Yeah, sounds good.
I think the one thing I do have to be a little bit careful, like I can just, like the say chocolate or crisp or things, they're very easy to just eat. And if you don't need them, it's just a waste kind of thing. So, I mean, I've been, in lockdown, I've been actually really good, I think, for myself anyway. I
think you're the exception to the rule.
Maybe it's just not going to the supermarket or something all the time, or just trying to avoid it. It's just it's just not in your face as much if it's not there.
Not tempted.
I'm not saying I don't eat it. No.
I had to restrict my donuts during lockdown just because they weren't available. I wasn't driving places where they were Krispy Kreme stops and things, but still didn't work for me. Okay, amazing. So you like your high mileage, but what has happened? What's your London Marathon training been like? Has that been different?
So coming off the April, May, June of that kind of high mileage, and a lot of that was sort of just just running. There weren't any proper serious workouts in there.
Sessions or
there was ones I don't know, maybe try and like 2 hour 20 marathon pace, that's like 5:20 a mile. I might go and try and run, 10 miles or whatever, or at 5:20s, or I might do a 20 miler at 5:30 pace. But it wasn't anything like proper marathon training like that I was gearing up for. And so I think I only found out that I was actually in the elite race, I think it was it 7 weeks out from London?
Was this...
it was the week after Dan.
Yeah, so Dan tweeted, which if you check the episode with Dan, you'll be able to hear the story all about that. So he tweeted London Marathon, so that opened it up to him, you, and a few other guys. Is that right?
Kinda, because he did that tweet.
Yeah.
I saw it and I was like, because I'd messaged the London people like a week earlier to basically ask him what he's asking.
Same thing.
So I saw that and I was like, here's an email this person. And then so he strangely, so I'd emailed on a week before him, he then emailed/tweeted as well. He got in.
So this is teamwork, yeah?
He got in, and then I was like left hanging, and I'm like, hang on, they meant to say yes to me before you.
Oh, that's funny.
But luckily it all worked out, and a week later, I got accepted. And I think what was happening was they were constantly juggling the field because they were obviously still trying to deal with the mass race, trying to get that to go ahead. And that, I don't think hadn't been cancelled at that point. So they were obviously busy on that side. They were knowing they could have the option of the elite race. There's all the athletes, international athletes, that they probably had to reconfirm, people dropping out, coming in. So, I probably only just snuck in the end because of people dropping out and various things. And maybe because I'm just down the road, I could probably run to the hotel.
Cool. So your session, so what has been more specific in the last 7 weeks?
So I've just been doing a lot more marathon specific stuff. And for me that's involves a lot of, it's kind of, let's call it laps of parks, which is great.
And I've seen on your YouTube, you put up actually the video of you doing laps around St James's Park, is that right?
Yeah. I bought a new toy and I thought I'd give it a whirl, and thought what better chance than to...
I will put the link up above so you can go and check out Paul's video for that, because it's the laps, it's what they're doing. But are you not bored of those laps yet?
No. Oh, it's going to be awesome. Like in my normal training, I'll train at Battersea Park, which was touted as being one of the locations for the sub-2 attempt, but they ended up doing it in Vienna. And that's a 2.8k loop, and so 2.8k, whereas the London St James is 2.15 approximately. So it's about a k shorter. 600 metres shorter. But so I'm constantly doing laps of various parks, and Victoria Park as well, it's close to me where I train. There's a mile lap I do. There's a 3k lap, a 4k lap. There's so many different lap things I do. But what I specifically did for my marathon training was I try and it's loosely Canova based training, I guess, where it's kind of like you do an effort at marathon pace or thereabouts. So it might be like 2 or 3k. Then you do like a k jog, or not jog even, it's actually quite a hard jog recovery. And then you go again. So the idea is that you build up, so you might be doing 2k on, 1k off, and you might do that 6 times, so you got 18k. And then the next time you might do 3k on, 1k off, but you might only do it 4 times, so you got 16k, but 12 of them are at pace. So you're kind of building up that resistance, or that getting used to that marathon pace whilst reducing your recovery. And so what happens when you're doing these, obviously you'll see your heart rate, rises, and you have a bit of a dip, and
but
then
it's not going down like a true recovery. It's just floating a little.
Because some of these let's say I'm trying to hit 3:15 a k for the effort, and you might be 3:30, 3:35 a k for the jog.
Yeah.
So it's still, it's
Yeah.
like, it's really close to
More
the
like
pace.
steady, but
Yeah, so it ends up, it's a really long, prolonged workout.
it sounds tough.
They are really hard.
It sounds really tough.
Yeah, so I've just been throwing a few more of them and various ones of those. And also just straight, try and run at marathon pace for whatever it might be, 20k or something, yeah.
Will you fit that into a long run or do that separately?
Well, by the time you do it, so I might run three or 4 miles to the park, if I'm doing it in Victoria Park, and then I'll do like 13 miles of effort, and then 3 or 4 home, so you're looking at 20 miles. So
Yeah.
it's technically it's a long run anyway, and
Not for you though.
yeah. But there's so many options with marathon training. It's great. Like when I was training with a good friend, another guy from New Zealand actually, Malcolm Hicks. He actually just ran the Olympic qualifying time in Seville this year.
Right, okay.
And so I was just doing some of the stuff he was doing, because sometimes it's easier to train with other people than we'll go like, oh well, I'm doing 1Ks and you're doing 800s. That's not going to work, because they're such similar workouts sometimes. So I just adapt and do whatever someone else might be doing, or we adjust. And some of the things he was doing, it's like, oh, that seems like a really good thing to do. Like you might do like a long run. It might be a 40k run, and you might start off a bit easy. You might pick it up to a quite steady pace, and then you try and like nail 5k basically at the end at marathon pace to try and simulate that. A marathon where you're really tired, you've got no energy. So there's some really like interesting and really tough workouts you can do. But you do have to, I think this is my problem sometimes, I don't plan for them properly, so when I come to do them I'm not ready. It's almost like you've got to treat them like a race nearly, because some of them can be quite serious and tough.
Okay, so when you're doing it, do you recover well in between? Do you break it up with the easy stuff? Do you make sure that you're recovered, ready to go again for the next tough session?
Yeah, I used to be when I was like back in my earlier days of running, when I was in my earlier 30s. I'm not in my 30s anymore. We won't talk about that. But I used to be able to do back-to-back stuff, like I'd do a really hard race on a cross country on a Saturday. I could then go and run like a really hard half marathon on a Sunday and have no trouble. But in the last few years, I think age has caught up with me a bit, and I just can't do that anymore. I've tried a few times, and you end up I've slowly learned that it's just because I'm getting older. But so now, when I'm in training properly, I will, if I do something hard on a Wednesday, I'm not even going to bother to do much on the Thursday or the Friday or maybe even the Saturday. I will sort of take that rest in between. But if I do something say if it was a Wednesday hard, I might do something on the Friday, but it'll be a light kind of speed, like a fartlek or something, where you're not focused on a distance or a pace. It's just like run hard for 2 minutes, have a rest. Who cares what the watch says? I find that like really like relaxing, and that's not the word. It just takes the weight off your shoulders. You're not worried about pace. You just you just run, and whatever it is whatever it is. So
I like those kind of runs.
No pressure.
No pressure.
And that's where some of the long runs come in. It's like no pressure, just run for ages, and it's great.
For the love of running, because you can and because you want to, and just go and enjoy it. I like that. Okay, so let's talk about what kind of shape do you think you're in for London? Do you think the PB is there? Because it's going to be a fast course, right?
Yes, technically it's a fast course. There's a 5 metre elevation.
5 metres.
Up and drop, which doesn't sound like much, but 5 metres is like when you look at a ceiling, like that's only 3. That's quite a big, a big amount. It's like actually
over 2.1k, then
obviously, if it's just a gradual, you won't notice it, but when it's a big thing, you do. But it is a pretty fast course. Even though I've done a lot of laps on it, because I've been doing that in the middle of the day with traffic,
Yeah.
it's quite hard to relax, if that makes sense, because I'm like up and down on the pavement.
You've got to be aware of what's around.
Yeah, I'm running because the loop runs in the opposite direction of traffic. I have to, I'm like constantly on the lookout for cyclists and cars and things. There was one that day that I did the video of the course. I did a workout afterwards, and because I had to come off the pavement, I kind of nearly like twisted on my ankle.
Yeah.
It was like I started to think, maybe I should just bin this now or something. I mean, I did keep going, but I was just much more careful. I kind of just took that as a warning and.
Do some jitters then, doesn't it? You don't want to be anything happening this close. Yeah.
So I've got through all right. I'm here now. I've got like 4 days to not have anything happen to me. Yeah, and so it is a fast course. Am I in PB shape? What's really hard is I have been doing some good training, but I just haven't been quite hitting the pace that I would want.
Yep.
And I don't know why that is. I'm not sure if it's just like normally I have people I'm running with. Like I can hardly think of a workout where I've had someone to run with in the last 6 months. Like there will be the odd one, but like the ones. Oh no, I mean there has been a couple, but the ones I really need. When I'm doing the proper marathon thing, it can make a huge difference. So, I'm still like I've run quite a few just like 70-minute halves just around loops and things, which in the past when I've been in really good shape, I'm probably getting more like the 69, so I'm probably about a minute quicker. But as I say, that's usually with company, and that's like Battersea, which is a super flat, super nice route. It's so good for running around there. So all these things I'm like I can sort of add them up and go, well maybe I'm pretty much in the same kind of shape as when I am in good shape, and also just the fact that on the day like we haven't had a proper race, there hasn't been a proper race.
You haven't had a normal build up, I guess.
Yeah. So I think I'm there or thereabouts. And there is going to be a few of us sort of looking at, we're kind of thinking around the 68-minute half split.
Dan did say in his interview that he was going for 68 for the first half.
Yeah. So
that will help if there's a group of you working together, right?
Yeah, and like we all know each other, so it's like it's great to have like-minded. You just know each other. You can just if it's a bit windy on the day. It's like, okay, so everyone just has to take a turn. Like, there's no kind of communication barrier you get in Europe sometimes where people, it just, so I think it'll work really well. I think, and the other thing that'll help us is we're probably fighting to not be last.
Okay. That's good, a little bit of competitive spirit in your little group. Yeah, that's good. Yeah. But I guess also, like you say, you miss the company on the runs and that being able to push you a little bit more, which I think everybody finds generally if you're doing sessions or if you're doing hard races or runs, that if you've got somebody there, it just pushes you on that bit more. So hopefully on the day that will really help as well. Yeah,
I definitely think it will. I just remember sometimes running with people and you're like, oh my god, this is easy, and you can just talk to them and you hardly feel like you're breathing. So yeah. Okay, so it'll be interesting to see who gets the closest to the 2:15 mark out of you and Dan. Wow. I'll just claim old age.
Old age.
I've got a handicap.
Adjustment.
Yeah, we'll look up the age grade afterwards.
Yeah, because the good for age would be, say if you were doing your first London now, the good for age would be very different for you and Dan, wouldn't it?
Oh yeah, I don't even know what it would be for a 40
I'm not sure
plus.
The numbers off the top of my head.
I know they're a bit stricter, I think, than they used to be.
Yeah, they keep coming down with the good for age times.
Because there's so many people, hitting them.
Yeah, and I think even the times that they publish now, you've still got to be quite a bit underneath to make sure that you're in there.
It's too popular running, isn't it?
It is. It's really popular, but you can see why, because it is such an amazing race, isn't it? And the atmosphere and stuff, which makes this year a little bit strange because you haven't got the crowds and you haven't got the, the people in suits and stuff like that. You haven't got. Well, I suppose there will there be quite big finish at the mile still?
So I mean, it finishes exactly the same place.
Yeah.
I just don't. I mean, you think of the loop. We're going to run on the inner side of the loop. I assume that there'll be a. You might just run through the actual finish gantry every lap, or they may put the gantry to the side a little bit, where you like a 5 metre gap, whatever. Yeah.
Quickly.
Yeah, just at the end you just veer off a little bit to the finish.
Yeah.
But it will. I'm sure it'll be. I hope it's the bells and whistles big finish gantry.
Yeah, it'd be interesting. Do you rely? Are you a runner that likes crowd support when you're racing?
I don't mind, to be honest.
Don't mind?
Like, no, I'm used to.
In the zone.
Yeah, in a way, like I was saying earlier, that I get carried away sometimes, and that's just waste energy. So. And yeah, so if you're just in the zone, not wasting energy, it's probably a good thing in this scenario.
It's another reason to get a PB this time.
Yeah.
No distractions. Okay, so you're heading off into the bubble on Friday, and that's it. You're shut off and ready to race. Hopefully, a bit more organised.
Yep, I'll be organised.
What will race day morning look like for you? Any rituals, any preparations that you like to do?
Not particularly. I mean, the only thing I do really, I guess, is it's more about getting up early enough, which can be tough when the race is like, say it's a 9 o'clock start or something. Getting up at like 5 is a bit tough for me. But you know, like I think we're starting at 10:15.
Yeah.
And there's a bit of a timetable. You know, like we obviously there's going to be a bus to the start and all that. So there's a timetable. We have to be probably up easily 4 hours before. Like I kind of want to be up 4 hours before as a minimum.
Yeah.
That's about it really. I mean, I'll obviously eat, no more than, I try to eat 4 hours before, but sometimes it might be 3.5, and at worst 3. However, I don't think, a lot of my running I do without eating, but also a lot I will literally just eat something and then run.
Yeah.
As long as it's not too much, you can get away with it. Obviously that's different when you're running at such the intensity, so you can't really get away with it as well.
No banana and off you pop.
No, so other than just getting up and eating and that, it's
Do you
just...
go back to sleep after breakfast? No.
Nah.
Just
No, it's all about
adrenaline.
It's all like to be. It's a runner thing, so it's not even like I can't even say. But it's like it's all about the body movements and like, because if you, the last thing you want is not to, let's say, go to the toilet.
No.
So
you need to poo.
yeah, so it's kind of like the longer you're up, the better chance that.
The more coffees you can have as well to help.
Yeah, coffee can be dangerous,
I think
but
that's universal across runners. If you haven't had your pre-race poo, then you're just
No, it just feels wrong.
It does feel wrong. It does feel wrong. Coffee generally helps. Okay, and what are your plans post London? Anything in the pipeline? I guess with COVID at the moment, there's no races on as such, but anything for you?
No, I mean, I am entered in Valencia marathon.
Is that still on, is it?
No, the mass race has been cancelled, but they're holding an elite race as well.
Okay, that's cool.
And so I'm entered in that, and I know quite a few people who are doing that. There's like quite a popular one to be doing.
Because that's quite a fast course as well, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. However, I don't know if they're going to go down to a loop, because it doesn't really make sense to have 50, 100 people on a 40k loop. Like you're better to have a 5 or 10k max kind of thing. Which they might do, because they do the half marathon, they do the 10k, they might use the 10k loop, who knows, I don't know yet. And yeah, so I'll see how I recover. But that's that's penciled in.
Is that November?
December, start of December, yeah.
Yeah, so hopefully enough time to recover, go again.
Yeah, and in the past I've run quite well. Even like 2 weeks, 3 weeks later, I can run a similar. Maybe I'm a few minutes off, but so given that it's like 8 weeks, I think, or 10 weeks, I should be recovered enough to be, on par.
Okay, fab. Okay, so it's been really, really good talking to you today. I've thoroughly enjoyed it, and like I said, thank you for taking the time out of your unorganised schedule to do it. I do try and finish the interviews with a would you rather question. Now, because it's London, we're going to change it a little bit, so let's keep it nice and simple. Who do you think is going to win on Sunday? Is it going to be Kipchoge or Bekele?
Wow. I mean,
or Dan Nash?
Yeah, he's currently at, was it 1,500 to 1 odds to place in the top 3?
I did see it, yeah.
I think we all are about 1,500 to 1. And the only way we'll ever get in the top 3 maybe is if there's a COVID outbreak in the hotel and we're the only ones racing.
Sneaky tactics you made it here first.
I've got a vial of COVID. I mean, you can't not put your money on Kipchoge. I mean, he's just a legend, really. He's lost 1 marathon and he came second. Yeah. And what did he run, like 2:04 when he lost it or something? It's just like, it's ridiculous. Mm-hmm. And I just don't know how he gets it right every single time. It's just phenomenal.
Because he's a machine. He's just godlike, isn't he?
Yeah. I mean, I'd love it to be a really good race. I mean, you know, when Bekele in Berlin missed it by like 3 seconds or something that year, or, you know, like, it'd just be amazing to see them.
It'd be good to see a good fight to the end.
Yeah, and the beauty of it is we're going to probably get lapped twice. So if they're going head to head right at the end, we might be getting lapped near the end just to see it like live.
That would be amazing.
It'll be awesome. It'll make my day.
And even better if the world records went. Do you think there's a possibility on Sunday?
So I've seen some weather forecasts. There's a bit of wind. It's not too windy, but it's not
ideal.
Not ideal wind, and maybe some showers. It doesn't look terrible weather. Like the rain is maybe just a sprinkle, but that may affect it more so psychologically. I know I've been to Kenya a few times, and when you want to go for a jog and you go, I'm going for a jog and it's raining, they look at you like you're crazy because they're like, why are you running in the rain? Like, they're quite almost superstitious about running in the rain. Okay. So they don't like it at all. I mean, you only look back at Boston when Yuki Kawauchi won in those horrendous conditions. Like, it's, you know, I'm not saying they're fair weather runners at all, like but they definitely have an aversion to sort of and partly that's where they live. There's the dirt road, the red clay stuff. It just sticks to your shoes. It's horrible. It's like you run and you're about that much thickness of mud. So I don't blame them for not running. But yeah, so that could play on their minds a little bit. But someone like Kipchoge, I think he's just he'll just be like. Yeah.
It's going to be exciting to watch no matter what happens. It will be a good day. And
even the women's race actually will be amazing.
So with the women's, who do you think?
I mean, you've got some of the world record, women's only world record half marathon. You've got Kosgei. I mean, that's another thing we were talking about in our little group of slow runners at the back that we hopefully we don't get. You know, we want to at least run as fast as the fastest ladies, kind of thing. You know, like just be on par with them. That would be good. But you know, like she ran an amazing time in Chicago. So who knows what they could run? Like they're only just starting now to, you know, make inroads into the time. So that's quite exciting.
It will be exciting. It will be exciting all around, and it'll be exciting for you guys as well. And I know that myself and I'm sure anybody watching this pre-London will be supporting you on virtually. I'm not sure about placing a bet, maybe £1. It could go, you know, £1's worth it.
I'll let you know the COVID situation.
let me know if you get that vial. But let me know in the comments who you think is going to win this year's London marathons and whether you think that the world record will go. So do leave a comment below. Other than that, very nice talking to you. I will let you go now and do your busy taper thing.
Yeah. Rest.
Rest.
Rest and eat. It's great.
And eat. It's a hard gig.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you.
I really hope that you've enjoyed this episode of Run With. If you've got any questions or you'd like to let me know who else you would like to see on this series, please do leave a comment below. To support this series and this channel, please do make sure you give a thumbs up and subscribe. Hit the notification bell so you know when future episodes are coming out. They will be slowing down a little bit. There were a few for the London Marathon special, but there are plenty more of exciting guests to come. I will put all of Paul's links below so that you can go and follow him on social media and give him some support ahead of the big day. I've also put below a link to buy me a coffee. So if you would like to buy me a coffee to keep me going on these long train journeys, that would be amazing. Other than that, happy running and stay safe.